On the count of murder in the first degree, this court finds the defendant Park Jin-ho not guilty. He was dead before he hit the marble floor. Silence descended on the courthouse. Jin-ho rose slowly, staring at the woman who had just killed 4 professional assassins in under 15 seconds. His remaining security team rushed in through the side doors, too late, always too late. But they stopped when they saw what had already happened. "Who are you?" Jin-ho asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ayeesha Ashriel turned to face him, blood on her hands, chaos around her, and for one moment their eyes locked in a connection that would destroy both their lives. "I am your lawyer," she said simply, "and you now owe me significantly more than my original fee." That was 3 months ago. Now, as Ayeesha sat in her corner office at Park & Associates, the firm she had joined specifically to take on Jin-ho's case, she stared at the photograph on her desk and wondered how her life had spiraled completely out of control. The photograph showed her family back in Lagos, her mother, her younger brother Chidi, her grandmother. They were the reason she had left Nigeria 8 years ago with nothing but a law degree and impossible dreams. They were the reason she had clawed her way through Seoul's legal system, enduring the racism, the isolation, the constant whispers about the African woman who thought she could compete with Korean lawyers. They were also the reason she had taken Jin-ho's case in the first place. Her phone buzzed. She already knew who it was. "Miss Ashriel." His voice was silk and steel. "I need to see you, tonight, my residence." "I told you, Mr. Park, our professional relationship ended when the trial concluded." "This is not about law. This is about the 4 men you killed to save my life. The people who sent them want to know who you really are, and when they find out, and they will find out, they will come for you." Ayeesha's hand tightened on the phone. "Then I will handle them the same way I handled the first 4. There are hundreds of them. The Jong Syndicate does not forgive and they do not forget. You killed their men. You are marked. The only way you survive is under my protection." "I do not need your protection." "Then your family will need my protection instead." The words hit her like a physical blow. "Do not threaten my family." "I am not threatening them, Ayeesha. I am telling you that the Jong Syndicate already knows about your mother in Lagos, about your brother Chidi studying medicine at the University of Seoul. They know everything, and without me standing between them and the people you love, nothing will stop them from taking their revenge." Ayeesha closed her eyes. This was not supposed to happen. She was supposed to take the case, collect the massive fee, send money home to her family, and disappear back into the anonymity of corporate law. She was not supposed to fall into the orbit of a man who controlled half of Seoul's underworld. "What do you want from me?" she asked finally. "Come to my residence tonight. Let me explain. Let me show you who I really am, and then you can decide if you want my help or not." She should have said no. Every instinct, every ounce of professional training, every warning sign screamed at her to refuse. But she thought about Chidi, her baby brother, walking across the university campus with no idea that men were already watching him, measuring him, deciding whether to use him as leverage. "Fine," she said. "Tonight. But I am bringing my own security." Jin-ho laughed, a sound that was surprisingly warm. "You are your own security, Ayeesha. That is what terrifies me about you. 8 o'clock. I will send a car." He hung up before she could respond. Ayeesha set down the phone and stared out at the Seoul skyline, its lights beginning to flicker on as evening approached. 5 years in this country, and she had built something from nothing. She had become one of the most successful defense attorneys in the city, representing clients who could afford her astronomical fees and using that money to pull her family out of poverty back home. But Park Jin-ho was different from every client she had ever represented. When she had taken his case, she had known he was accused of racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. What she had not known, what she had refused to let herself know, was that he was guilty of all of it and more. She had defended him anyway, finding technicalities, destroying witness credibility, and constructing a legal argument so brilliant that the jury had no choice but to acquit. She had done her job. That was what lawyers did. But then the assassins came, and she had reacted without thinking, drawing on training that no ordinary lawyer should possess, training that she had spent years hiding, training that connected her to a past she had fled Nigeria to escape. Now Jin-ho wanted to know who she really was, and Ayeesha was not sure she could afford to tell him. She picked up the photograph of her family again and traced her finger over her brother's face. Chidi had no idea what their father had really done for a living before he died. He had no idea that the money that had paid for his medical school came from accounts that Ayeesha had inherited from a man who had trained her to be a weapon before he had been assassinated when she was 17. And he had no idea that the people who had killed their father were connected to the same underworld that Park Jin-ho now ruled. "What have I done?" Ayeesha whispered to the empty office. "What have I done?" The car that arrived at 8 o'clock was a black Mercedes with windows tinted so dark they were probably illegal. Ayeesha slid into the back seat and found herself alone, the driver separated from her by a privacy partition. She had worn a simple black dress, but she had also strapped a knife to her thigh and another to her ankle. Old habits died hard. The drive took 40 minutes, winding through neighborhoods that grew increasingly exclusive until they reached a private road that led up into the hills overlooking Seoul. The gates that opened for them were 20 feet tall, guarded by men with automatic weapons who watched the car pass with cold, professional eyes. Jin-ho's residence was not a house. It was a fortress disguised as a traditional Korean estate, with curved rooftops and wooden architecture that spoke of centuries of heritage. But Ayeesha noticed the security cameras, the motion sensors, the way the gardens were designed to provide no cover for approaching enemies. This was a place built for war. A servant met her at the entrance and led her through corridors decorated with priceless art, ancient Korean ceramics alongside modern pieces that probably cost more than she made in a year. Finally, they reached a private dining room where Park Jin-ho waited alone at a table set for two. He rose when she entered, and Ayeesha felt her breath catch despite herself. He was beautiful in a dangerous way, sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that seemed to see through every defense she had constructed, and a body that moved with controlled grace of a predator. He wore a simple black suit, no tie, and when he smiled, it transformed his face from threatening to devastating. "Thank you for coming," he said, pulling out her chair himself. "I was not sure you would." "I mentioned your family," Ayeesha replied, sitting down but remaining rigid. "You did not mean it as a threat." Jin-ho said, returning to his seat. "I meant it as information. The Jang Syndicate has already begun their investigation into you. They have operatives in Lagos right now, watching your mother's house. They have men following your brother to class every day. I have only prevented them from acting because I have claimed you as mine." I am not yours. In their world, you are, Jin-ho said. The moment you saved my life, you aligned yourself with me in their eyes. The only question now is whether you accept my protection or face them alone. Ayeesha studied him, searching for any sign of deception. Why do you care? I was your lawyer. My job is done. Why invest resources in protecting me? Jin-ho was silent for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice had lost its controlled smoothness. Because in that courtroom, when those assassins came through the door, everyone else ran. My own security team was useless, but you threw yourself over me. You killed for me. Not because it was your job, but because in that moment you chose me. I chose survival, Ayeesha corrected. They would have killed me too. No, Jin-ho shook his head. I saw your face. You made a decision. You could have run, and you would have made it. You are faster than anyone I have ever seen. But you stayed. You protected me. No one has ever done that without being paid first. Ayeesha looked away, uncomfortable with how clearly he had read her. It was instinct. Whose instinct? A lawyer's or someone else's? She met his eyes again, and something passed between them, an understanding that went beyond words. He knew she was hiding something. She knew he was dangerous in ways that went beyond his criminal empire. And yet, neither of them could look away. I grew up in Lagos, Ayeesha said, deciding to offer some truth in exchange for cooperation. My father was not who my family believed him to be before he died. He trained me from the time I was old enough to hold a weapon. When he was killed, I was 17. I used everything he taught me to survive, and then I left Nigeria and never looked back. I came to Korea because I wanted to be someone new. Jin-ho nodded slowly. Who killed your father? Men like you, Ayeesha said without flinching. Men who controlled territories and dealt in blood. He made enemies, and they caught up with him. Is that why you took my case? To understand us, to understand him? The question struck too close to the truth. Ayeesha had spent years trying to understand her father, how a man could be so loving and so brutal at the same time, how he could teach her to kill with her hands while also reading her bedtime stories. Park Jin-ho was the same contradiction, a crime lord who spoke poetry, a killer who commissioned art, a monster who looked at her with something dangerously close to tenderness. I took your case because you paid well, Ayeesha said. That is all. Then why did you save my life? She had no answer for that. The servants began bringing food, an elaborate Korean meal with dishes Ayeesha could not name, but which looked exquisite. Jin-ho watched her try each one, seeming to take genuine pleasure in introducing her to flavors she had never experienced.
Tell me about the Jang Syndicate, Ayeesha said between courses. Why do they want you dead? Jin-ho's expression hardened. Because I killed their leader's son. Ayeesha set down her chopsticks. Did he deserve it? He tortured and murdered a 12-year-old girl, Jin-ho said flatly. She was the daughter of one of my employees. She had done nothing wrong. She was simply in the wrong place when young Master Jang decided he wanted to hurt something innocent. He paused, pain flickering across his features. I made sure his death was not quick. Ayeesha studied him with new eyes. You are not what I expected. What did you expect? A monster, pure and simple. I am a monster, Jin-ho said. I have killed more people than I can count. I have destroyed lives and built my empire on suffering. But I have rules. I do not harm children. I do not harm innocents. I do not harm women. His eyes locked with hers. The Jang Syndicate has no such rules. They believe power is the only morality. They torture, rape, and murder without distinction. And now they want to kill you because you stood between them and me. Then give me up, Ayeesha said. Let them have their revenge. Why protect someone you barely know? Jin-ho reached across the table and took her hand. His touch was warm, surprisingly gentle, and Ayeesha's heart began to race in ways she could not control. Because I have watched you for months, since the first day you walked into my holding cell and told me you would either destroy me or save me, and you did not care which.
I have watched you work, watched you fight, watched you become the first person in my life who sees exactly what I am and does not look away. You are extraordinary, Ayeesha Ashriel, and I do not want to live in a world where you do not exist. You do not know me. Then let me learn. He squeezed her hand. Stay here tonight. Not in my bed. I am not asking for that. Stay in one of my guest rooms, under my protection. Let my people begin securing your family. And tomorrow, let me show you why I do what I do. Let me show you that there is more to this world than monsters and victims. Ayeesha knew she should refuse. She knew that every moment she spent with this man pulled her deeper into a darkness she had sworn to leave behind. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something she recognized, a loneliness so profound it echoed her own, a hunger for connection that he probably did not even understand. One night, Ayeesha said, and then I make my decision. Jin-ho smiled, and it was like watching the sun break through storm clouds. One night is all I ask. That was the night everything changed. That was the night Ayeesha stopped pretending she could walk away. The guest room was larger than Ayeesha's entire apartment, with windows overlooking a garden that seemed designed for meditation and violence in equal measure. She lay awake most of the night, listening to the sounds of the estate, guards patrolling, dogs barking in the distance, and once the unmistakable crack of a gunshot from somewhere far away. She was living in a war zone, and she had chosen to stay. By morning, Jin-ho's people had already begun their work. When Ayeesha checked her phone, she found messages from Chidi, mundane updates about his classes, complaints about his roommates, questions about when she would visit him. He had no idea that men were now watching over him, keeping him safe from enemies he had never met. Her mother was similarly oblivious, sending voice messages about the new roof that had been installed on the house, paid for by Ayeesha's legal fees, and asking when she planned to find a husband. Lagos seemed so far away. Another lifetime, another person. Ayeesha showered, dressed in clothes that had been left for her, expensive, perfectly sized, clearly chosen by someone with excellent taste, and made her way downstairs. She found Jin-ho in his study, surrounded by men in suits who fell silent when she entered. "Gentlemen," Jin-ho said without looking down from his documents, "you will treat Ms. Ashriel with the same respect you show me. She is under my protection, and any harm that comes to her will be considered a personal offense. Am I understood?" A chorus of agreements filled the room. The men filed out, casting curious glances at Ayeesha as they passed. She ignored them, focusing instead on the man behind the desk. "Your people have questions." "My people have many questions. The most pressing one is how a Jang Nigerian lawyer killed 4 Jang assassins with her bare hands." Jin-ho set down his pen and gestured to the chair across from him. "I gave them the answer I thought most useful, that you were trained by your father, who was a security consultant. They do not need to know more." "What else do they not need to know?" "That you are the daughter of Emmanuel Ashriel, the ghost of Lagos, the man who controlled half of West Africa's underground arms trade before he was murdered by his own partners." The blood drained from Ayeesha's face. She had not heard that name spoken aloud in over a decade. "How do you know that?" "Because I make it my business to know everything about the people in my orbit," Jin-ho said calmly. "Your father was legendary, Ayeesha. He was one of the most dangerous men in Africa, and he trained you to be his successor. When he died, you disappeared. You changed your name, erased your history, and reinvented yourself as a lawyer. It is genuinely impressive." Ayeesha's hand moved toward the knife strapped to her thigh. "If you know all this, why did you let me get close to you?" "Because you are not your father." Jin-ho leaned forward. "I have watched you for months. You have had dozens of opportunities to betray me, to sell my secrets to my enemies, to use your position against me. You have done none of those things. You are exactly what you claim to be, a lawyer who wants to leave her past behind. Then why bring this up now?" "Because the Jang Syndicate has also discovered who you are. They know you are the ghost's daughter, and they have decided that killing you will not be enough. They want to use you against me first." Ayeesha's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Jin-ho rose from his desk and walked to the window, his back to her. "They have approached your brother, Chidi.
They did not hurt him. My people intervened before that could happen, but they made contact. They told him things about your father, about you, about our relationship. I do not have a relationship with you. Jin-ho turned to face her. You do now. In their eyes, you are my lover, my confidant, my weakness. They believe that hurting you will hurt me, and they are correct. He paused, something vulnerable breaking through his controlled exterior. I did not expect this. I did not expect to care whether you lived or died, but I do, and that makes both of us targets. Ayeesha stood slowly, her mind racing. I need to see my brother. He is being brought here. He should arrive within the hour. You are bringing him into this world. Ayeesha's voice rose with anger. He is innocent. He knows nothing about any of this, and you are dragging him into your war?
The Jung Syndicate already dragged him in, Jin-ho said. I am trying to keep him alive. If he stays at the university, they will take him. If he goes back to Lagos, they will follow. The only safe place for your family now is here, under my protection. Your protection comes at a price. Everything with men like you comes at a price. Jin-ho crossed the room and stopped inches from her, close enough that she could feel the heat of his body, smell the subtle scent of his cologne. Yes, he said quietly, it does. The price is you. Stay with me. Help me destroy the Jung Syndicate. Use the skills your father taught you, the skills you have been hiding for 12 years, and in return, I will make sure your family survives. You are asking me to become what I swore I would never be again. I am asking you to save the people you love. His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone. I know what I am asking. I know what it costs, but you are the only person I trust, Ayeesha, the only one who sees me clearly and does not flinch. I need you. The words hit her like bullets. No one had ever needed her, not really. She had spent her entire adult life being useful, being professional, being distant. She had constructed walls so high that no one could reach her. And now this man, this dangerous, brilliant, terrifying man, was standing before her with his heart in his hands. If I do this, she said slowly, I am not your soldier, I am your partner, equal in all decisions, equal in all profits, equal in all risks. Jin-ho smiled. I would expect nothing less. And if you ever threaten my family again, if you ever use them as leverage against me, I will kill you myself. I believe you. Ayeesha took a deep breath and made the decision that would destroy her life. Then we have a deal. Jin-ho pulled her close and kissed her, a kiss that should have felt wrong, but instead felt like coming home. Ayeesha kissed him back, surrendering to emotions she had suppressed for years, allowing herself to want something for the first time since she had fled Lagos, covered in her father's blood. When they finally broke apart, Jin-ho rested his forehead against hers. Thank you, he whispered. I will not let you regret this. He was wrong. He would make her regret everything. 3 months passed, and Ayeesha Ashriel fell in love with a monster. She could not stop herself. She did not want to stop herself. Jin-ho showed her parts of himself that he had never revealed to anyone. His childhood in the slums of Busan, the abuse he had endured at the hands of his father, the moment he had killed his first man at 14 to protect his mother from a debt collector. He was honest about his crimes, never pretending to be better than he was, and somehow that honesty made him beautiful to her. Chidi had been relocated to the estate, where he initially raged against his captivity before slowly coming to understand the danger they faced. He studied medicine in a private room Jin-ho had converted into a laboratory, continuing his education while hidden from the enemies who wanted to use him. He did not understand his sister's relationship with the crime lord, but he accepted it because he had no choice. Their mother remained in Lagos, protected by a security team that posed as household staff. She sent messages every day, unaware that her daughter was sleeping with a man who had killed dozens of people, unaware that her son was hiding in a fortress in the Korean hills. Ayeesha became Jin-ho's partner in truth, not just in word. She attended his meetings, advised him on legal matters, and occasionally used the skills her father had taught her when situations demanded violence. She killed 2 more men during those 3 months, Jung operatives who had infiltrated the estate, and each time she felt a piece of her old self resurface. The ghost of Lagos was not dead. She had only been sleeping. One night, lying in Jin-ho's arms after making love, Ayeesha finally asked the question that had been haunting her. Why do you stay in this life? You have enough money to disappear. You could go anywhere, become anyone. Why keep fighting a war that will never end? Jin-ho was silent for a long moment. Because someone has to hold the darkness back. If I leave, the Jung Syndicate takes everything I control, and they are worse than me, Ayeesha. So much worse. The people under my protection, the business owners who pay me tribute, the families in my territory, they would suffer. I stay because leaving would make me a coward. That is almost noble. Almost. He pulled her closer. But it is also selfish. I like the power. I like the fear. I like knowing that when I walk into a room, everyone recognizes death walking beside me. Does that disgust you? It should, but it does not. Ayeesha thought about her father, about the man who held her hand while teaching her to end lives. No, she admitted, it does not. Jin-ho kissed her forehead. Then we are both damned, but at least we are damned together. The attack came a week later. Ayeesha was in the training room practicing forms she had not used since Nigeria when the first explosion rocked the estate. She was on her feet instantly, grabbing a weapon from the wall and sprinting towards the sound. Guards were already mobilizing, shouting orders in Korean, but she pushed past them, following instincts that were older than her time in Seoul. She found Jin-ho in the main hall, surrounded by his most trusted men. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead, and his suit was torn, but his eyes were clear and cold. Jong Sung-men is here, he said when he saw her. He brought 300 men. They're coming through every entrance. 300? Ayeesha's mind raced. We have, 50 guards? 42 who are still alive. Jin-ho handed her a tactical vest. Put this on, and stay close to me. Where's Chidi? Safe room in the east wing. The door is reinforced steel. They won't reach him. Ayeesha strapped on the vest and checked her weapons. What's the plan? Jin-ho smiled grimly. We fight our way to the secondary escape route. There's a tunnel beneath the garden that leads to a helicopter pad 2 kilometers north. If we can reach it, we survive. If we cannot... He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. The next hour was the bloodiest of Ayeesha's life. She fought beside Jin-ho through corridors that became slaughterhouses, stepping over bodies of men she had come to know and respect. She killed more people than she could count. Shots to the head, knives to throats, hands crushing windpipes, and each death reminded her why she had fled this life in the first place. But she could not stop. She would not stop. Jin-ho was beside her, and Chidi was somewhere in the chaos, and she would die before she let either of them fall. They were almost to the garden when Jong Sung-men himself appeared. He was older than Ayeesha expected, gray-haired and distinguished, looking more like a professor than a crime lord, but his eyes held the emptiness she had seen in the men who killed her father, the total absence of humanity. Jong Park Jin-ho, I have waited 12 years to watch you die, and now you bring me a bonus, the ghost's daughter herself.
Jin-ho stepped in front of Ayeesha. This is between us, Sung-min. Let her go. Let her go, Sung-min laughed. She killed my nephew in that courthouse. She has been killing my men for months. She is as much my enemy as you are. He raised a hand, and 20 men materialized from the shadows, surrounding them. But I am willing to make a deal. What deal? Give me the woman. Let me take her back to Seoul and show her what happens to people who oppose the Jung Syndicate. In return, I will let you live. You can disappear, become no one, and I will not follow. Ayeesha grabbed Jin-ho's arm before he could respond. Take the deal, she said. Jin-ho stared at her in disbelief. What? Take the deal. I am not worth your empire. I am not worth your life. She cupped his face in her hands, memorizing every line, every angle. I knew this would end badly. From the first moment I saw you, I knew. Let me go, Jin-ho. Survive. That is all I want. I cannot. You have to. Jin-ho's eyes filled with something she had never seen in him before. Tears. I love you, he said, the words raw and broken. I have never said that to anyone. I have never felt it. But I love you, Ayeesha, and I will not let you sacrifice yourself for me. Ayeesha kissed him, one last kiss, pouring every emotion she had suppressed into the connection. Then she pulled away and turned to face Jung Sung-min. I will come with you willingly, she said, but first, release him. Let me watch him leave. Sung-min smiled. I accept. But as he spoke, the roof above them exploded inward, and chaos descended once again. Men rappelled through the opening, weapons blazing, cutting down Jung operatives with surgical precision. Ayeesha grabbed Jin-ho and threw them both to the ground as bullets flew overhead. When she looked up, she saw her brother standing in the doorway of the safe room, a detonator in his hand. Chidi? She whispered. I triggered the estate's self-destruct protocols, Chidi said, his voice shaking. Father built this place, didn't he? I found his files. I found everything, Ayeesha. Everything you were hiding. Everything about who you really are. Chidi, please. The building will collapse in 3 minutes. Her baby brother, the innocent medical student, looked at her with eyes that held a pain she had never wanted to cause. We need to leave, now, all of us, before everything you've built here buries us all. The escape was a blur of fire and blood. Ayeesha carried a wounded Jin-ho on her back through the tunnel Chidi had discovered, a passage that her father had apparently built decades ago when he had used this estate as a Southeast Asian base of operations. She had not known, she had never known the full extent of Ayeesha Ashriel's empire. They emerged to the night 2 kilometers from the estate, just as the building imploded behind them. Flames lit the sky, and the screams of men dying mixed with the roar of collapsing stone. The helicopter was waiting, piloted by one of Jin-ho's loyalists, and they climbed aboard with seconds to spare. Chidi sat across from Ayeesha, refusing to meet her eyes. His hands still trembled from what he had done. How many? Ayeesha asked, finally. How many people were still inside? I don't know, Chidi whispered. Maybe 100, maybe more. Jung men, Jin-ho's guards, servants who couldn't escape. He finally looked at her, and his face was streaked with tears. I killed them, Ayeesha. I killed all of them. I became what Father trained you to do. I became what you ran away from. Ayeesha reached for him, but he pulled back. Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me. Chidi, I came to Seoul to become a doctor, to save lives, and you dragged me into your world without even telling me what that world was. You let me believe I was safe, that I was normal, that our family's wealth came from honest work. His voice broke. Father was a murderer, and now, so am I. Jin-ho stirred in Ayeesha's arms, his eyes flickering open. The boy saved our lives, he said weakly. He made a choice, and because of that choice, we survived. The boy did not choose this, Chidi spat. The boy was kept in the dark until it was too late, until killing was the only option left. Ayeesha closed her eyes. Her brother was right. She had spent 12 years protecting him from the truth, and in doing so, she had left him unprepared for the moment when the truth came crashing through. He had been forced to become a killer to save them, and he would never be the same. I'm sorry, Ayeesha said. I thought if I ran far enough, if I built a new life, I could escape what Father made me. I thought I could keep you safe. Safe? Chidi laughed bitterly. I watched you kill men in front of me, Ayeesha. I watched you hold a crime lord in your arms and kiss him while guards died around us. I have not been safe since the moment you saved Park Jin-ho's life. You just didn't want to admit it. The helicopter carried them to a secondary location, a safe house in the mountains that Jung Sung-min did not know about. Jin-ho's remaining loyalists met them there, and the process of rebuilding began immediately. But Ayeesha could not focus on strategy or logistics. All she could see was her brother's face, the betrayal in his eyes, the innocence that had been destroyed because of her choices. Jin-ho recovered slowly from his wounds. During the long nights, he held Ayeesha while she wept, and she found herself telling him everything about her father's death, about the years she spent alone, about the fear that had driven her across the world in search of a life that would never ask her to kill again. "You cannot outrun what you are," Jin-ho said one night. "I learned that years ago. You can only decide what to do with it." "And what do I do with it? My brother hates me. My family's legacy is violence and death. Everything I built, my career, my reputation, my new identity, it's all destroyed." "Then build something else." Jin-ho lifted her chin. "Build something real this time, not an escape, not a disguise, but an actual life. With me, if you want it." "With you?" Ayeesha's voice cracked. "You are the reason all of this happened. You are the reason my brother had to kill. You are the reason the Jung Syndicate will never stop hunting us." "Yes," he did not flinch from her accoutrement. "I am all of those things, but I am also the man who loves you, the only man who sees exactly what you are and wants you anyway, the only person in the world who understands what it means to be both a monster and a human being." Ayeesha wanted to hate him. She tried to hate him, but when she looked into his eyes, she saw her own reflection, damaged, dangerous, and desperate for something that felt like home. "The Jung Syndicate," she said finally. "Sung-min survived the collapse. He will come for us again." "Yes." "Then we cannot run. We cannot hide. We have to end this." Jin-ho nodded slowly. "I have been planning Sung-min's downfall for years, but I never had the resources, the allies, or the courage to see it through. With you, with what your father left you, we might actually succeed." "What my father left me?" "The files Titi found. Ayeesha Ashriel was not just an arms dealer. He was a collector of secrets. He had information on every criminal organization in Asia, including the Jung Syndicate. Names, accounts, evidence of crimes that could destroy them in court or on the street." Jin-ho's eyes gleamed. "If we use that information correctly, we do not just survive, we win." Ayeesha thought about the life her father had given her. The violence, the training, the skills she had tried so hard to bury. She thought about Chidi, broken and bitter, forever changed by what he had been forced to do. She thought about her mother in Lagos, still believing that her children were ordinary people living ordinary lives. And she made a choice. "We go after the Jung Syndicate," she said. "We use my father's secrets. We destroy them completely. And then, if we survive, we get out. We leave this world and never come back. We become ordinary. We heal." Jin-ho smiled sadly. "People like us do not become ordinary. Then we pretend. We pretend until it becomes true." The war against the Jung Syndicate lasted 8 months. Ayeesha used every skill her father had taught her, every legal stratagem she had learned in Seoul, every piece of information Ayeesha Ashriel had accumulated over decades. She broke apart the syndicate piece by piece, destroying their legitimate businesses, exposing their crimes to the authorities, assassinating their leaders one by one until only Jung Sung-min remained. The final confrontation took place in Sung-min's own home, a penthouse overlooking Seoul. Ayeesha went alone, despite Jin-ho's protests. This was her battle, her reckoning. Sung-min was waiting for her. unarmed, seated in a chair with a glass of whiskey in his hand. "I knew you would come yourself, the ghost's daughter. You have your father's eyes." "You knew my father?" "We were partners once, decades ago, before he betrayed me, before he tried to take everything I had built." Sung-min sipped his whiskey. "He deserved what he got, and so do you." Ayeesha raised her weapon. "Any last words?" Sung-min smiled. "Only a question. How much have you sacrificed to reach this moment? Your brother's innocence, your mother's ignorance, your own soul. Was it worth it, Ayeesha Ashriel? Was love worth everything it cost you?" The question hit her harder than she expected. She thought about Chidi, who had left the safe house weeks ago and returned to Lagos, refusing to speak to her. She thought about the bodies she had stepped over, the lives she had ended, the person she had become. She thought about Jin-ho, waiting for her in the mountains, believing that victory would bring them peace. "No," she admitted, "it was not worth it. None of it was worth it." "Then why continue?" Ayeesha pulled the trigger. "Because I no longer know how to stop." Sung-min's body slumped in the chair, and the war was over. The Jung Syndicate was destroyed. Ayeesha Ashriel had won. But when she returned to the safe house, she found it empty. A note waited on the table, written in Jin-ho's elegant hand. "My love, I cannot let you sacrifice more for me. The authorities are coming. I have arranged for your safety, a new identity, a new life, a full pardon for everything you have done. You will be free. I am turning myself in. I know you will hate me for this, but I saw what this war did to you. I saw the light leaving your eyes with every kill, and I refuse to be the reason you become completely lost. Your brother has agreed to forgive you in time. Your mother will never know. You will have the ordinary life you wanted. I love you. I will always love you. But love is not enough to justify what we became together. Forget me. Be happy. That is my final request. Jin-ho." Ayeesha read the letter 3 times before the tears came. She screamed until her voice broke, destroyed every piece of furniture in the safe house, and finally collapsed on the floor where they had once held each other through the darkest nights. He had sacrificed himself for her. He had given her freedom by taking away the only thing she wanted, him. That was the price of love. That was what it cost her. Everything. Ayeesha Ashriel returned to Lagos 6 months later, a broken woman wearing the mask of someone whole. She opened a small legal practice, helped people who could not afford help, and built a life that looked like peace from the outside. Chidi eventually forgave her, though something between them remained forever changed. Her mother died believing her daughter was an ordinary lawyer who had fallen in love and lost. And sometimes, late at night, Ayeesha would receive packages from an unmarked sender, books of poetry, pressed flowers from Korea, photographs of sunrises over the Seoul skyline. No notes, no explanations, just small pieces of a love that had cost her everything and would never truly end. She kept them all, hidden in a box beneath her bed. She never stopped loving him. She never stopped paying the price.